live once again, dear folks of the Game Dunk Tribe. Yeah, I have, as you can see, replaced myself with a very dapper lizard for now. Fear not, I am here with you still, and I can be contacted in the usual ways. But we have for today, and massive props for like being first out of the gate. It's always a unique challenge, and it still feels early in the morning. But a phenomenal writer, an amazing creative, and one of the polymaths of our little industry here, scattering out amazing talent through TTRPGs and video games. She's our wasteland warrior. She's our scout beyond the wall as the wraiths are closing in for the winter. She's an amazing person, and she's knocked me off my pedestal of drunken bocce champ last Christmas. So I think that's probably the it's probably as much of an intro as I can give. But Jade, thanks for coming out. How you doing?
I was not expecting a warm welcome like that. Oh, holy moly. G'day everyone. I suppose as you all just heard, I'm Jade. I'm not sure I can introduce myself any better than that. So I'm Jade. I'll be talking to you about multi GM tabletop sessions. So looking forward to it. Good to meet you all.
And yeah, look, great to have you here. So look, I'll probably vanish into the shadows from here, Jade. But yeah, I'll sort of swoop back around towards the end of the talk if any of our folks have any questions. So those of you who are following along online, drop them in the Twitch, drop them in the chat, and we'll circle back around to your questions once we come to the tail of this. All right. So, Keen Jade, I'll leave you to it.
Wow, Wasteland Warrior. I'm stealing that from my title. Okay, so today I'll be exactly what it says on the tin, the MCU and the Tabletop, and also how to weaponize yes and. So who am I? This photo is also slightly false advertising. The bleach is coming out. So I'm actually a natural brunette, Kelsa, please. So in video games, I'm probably best known for Game of Thrones' Tale of Crows. I was a writer and narrative designer on that. I'm featured in Hardwired Island, Gender Euphoria, and I've edited the Beast of Fears Peak with Brain Beast Studios. I've bounced around a lot of local groups like Ligara, Tavern Voices. Before that, I was known for dialogue-driven microgames on my itch, and right now I'm working on G14 classified material. So I'm going to open up with a hot take after my moment in the limelight. The MCU has been a gift to multi-GM tabletop roleplay. Not literally, Disney is an evil corporation rooted in heteronomia. It is a servant of the worm. It is Strahd's propaganda pulpit. However you want to take your tea, Disney evil. Now that I've done my queer villainess duties, when is a gift not a gift? It is a gift to streamed actual play content with different GMs. Games Workshop could have had the title, but in typical G-Dubs fashion, they screwed the pooch. Marvel gives us a working template to draw from, and G-Dubs gives us an example of what not to do. And I'll drink my tea before I spill it. So what the MCU has that GW doesn't is a consistent theme and a broad story. Basically, every story from Phase 1 to Phase 3 pulls together in one direction. This is the build-up to the Infinity Wars two-parter. Every single character, set piece, plot point, lighting element, and MacGuffin sets up for the big moments of Avengers Assemble. Iron Man introduces S.H.I.E.L.D., Thor introduces the cosmology, Captain America brings the Infinity Stones, Hulk establishes how outclassed humans are. Every film ties back into each other, introducing a fresh element until the big finale. In the first phase, this is Avengers. Once we're at the finale, the next films capitalize on said finale. It involves in themes and sometimes direction. Iron Man deals with PTSD in an action thriller. Captain America discusses fascist infiltration in a techno thriller. Thor discusses ancient grudges in an adventure film. Ant-Man silhouettes civil ethics via heist film. And Guardians of the Galaxy looks at the concept of found family in a space opera. Lather, rinse, repeat into Avengers Age of Ultron. Praise be to Raoul. G-dubs doesn't do this. Every piece of fiction is a subgenre of war fiction. Various authors often can't agree on what is canon or sensible, and this is even in Lampoon and the Caiaphas Cain book series via various character footnotes. Now, credit where it's due, a galaxy soup is harder to manage than basically Earth. Credit also taken back. The fantasy series worked with way more with a whole lot less. So, what? What I'm driving at is that there's a right and a wrong way to do this. So, say you and a couple of other Forever GMs are looking to, spin some stories. Players rotate in and out of the GM hot seat. You tell different stories within a loose continuity. Settle on a rule system, maybe a setting, and you just change up the rules every once in a while. Problem solved, right? No. It's because you have the same problem that G-dubs has. A glut of fiction that all reads the same. Really, after a while, you can lose count how many Severuses and Ajaxes there are, and most of them are testosterone poisoned macho men with arrested development. Remember the examples in the MCU. Iron Man is a Tom Clancy puff piece trying to be a superhero movie. Misses the mark on both accounts, but it's distinct. Doctor Strange is a wuxia, with a white protagonist, setting it apart from war flick Captain America. So, first of all, as the slide says, get the right tool for the right job. In this case, get the right director for the right job. Disney has gone on record as saying that this is their approach. So director Peyton Reed and writers Adam McKay, Joe Cornish, and Edgar Wright all have credits in family comedy. Cornish has Attack the Block as a science fiction, Wright has worked on Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, and McKay's earlier work includes The Dictator and The Other Guys. So translating your skill sets, you have a team that has experience in household drama, slapstick comedy, science fiction with a contained cast, and anything involving the law. Bang it into a blender, and you have Ant-Man. With the first Avenger, director Joe Johnston has worked on science fiction and war-themed works before Captain America. These include little-known films like The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. This experience grounds the film. It's a superhero movie with a sci-fi mouthfeel while still being a period piece. And both movies sell the idea of being in a wider world. Captain America is visually distinct, even if nobody remembers the cheesy fonduing joke. Ant-Man has relevance as a heist movie, even outside of the MCU label. It's continuity from big point to big point that ties everything together. So back to your hypothetical tabletop universe, the same principles will apply. Big point to big point. So I'm actually going to use a friend of mine's Twitch channel, Lightfoot Rogue. That was the proving ground for this speech. So stream host Nick Topher's first run on Running the Missing is a traditional Vampire the Masquerade story. Babby vampires are on the trying to survive a world basically going to shit. I'm allowed to swear, right? Hopefully. Too late if not.
Short answer, yes. Go for it.
Right. This hell being climate change and later Nazis. So a prequel series, New Kids on the Block, is a surreal horror drama. Things are getting really weird before going to hell. The Fae intervenes, some of the plots in The Missing are revealed to be engineered, and linchpinned with the idea that no one remembers the 90s. I sure as hell don't. When I stepped in with One Shot Yomangundo, it was themed in a detective fiction light. Solve a mystery, catch a culprit. Set between the two time stamps, it was to draw attention at things chipping away at the piece. So you're building the wider world in storytelling methods that Nick and I were distinctly strong in, and then build it to a big event. Things go horribly wrong when the Nazis come back. The difference in storytelling genres is to keep things fresh. The human mind loves fresh things, not the 400th serving of Severus revving his chainsaw to smite the foul Xenos. Secondly, bit like the second verse, same as the first. Tailor the actor to the action. It seems like a gimme, but you'd be surprised how many people whiff this. It's one thing to imagine Temuera Morrison as your badass bounty hunter, and it's another for you to perform that character. Factor it by 5, and you have a table of protagonists. We in the tabletop community have another name for that: chemistry. Everyone is a fine balance. I'm the player that will go do more than anything else. I will take facts as given and go do something with it. That player, to you thespians and simulationists, and this player for the shy cats and the improvisers. And like Temuera Morrison playing the Fets, or Chris Evans' sculpted bod playing Captain America, player chemistry affects the wider scope. Simply put, the actor informs the scene more than the opposite. So, for example, if you replace Robert Downey Jr. with Tom Hiddleston, and you see how Tony and Loki play differently, Loki becomes less tragic and more arrogant, and Tony becomes more maniacally depressed than bipolar. Actor informing the fiction rather than the other way around. So, back to the Twitch channel. This principle is paramount with a limited number of players. So, absolutely fantastic actress Inez 666 is a great example of what I'm talking about. So in the first campaign, Missing, she plays social media star Letitia. In New Kids on the Block, she plays a reclusive forest witch, Diana. In Yomungunder, she plays a pretty boy hacker, Felix. What carries between these characters is that they're outcasts. Letitia is a very public vampire. Diana is half feral and wants to be left alone. Felix is a gangrel who is also a hacker. In terms of player chemistry, you can rely on Inez to be a wild card. The characters do things on their terms. They're guarded in different ways, but they always betray a greater character. Another great example on this Twitch channel, the only Ziggy Richards. You can rely on them to play a larger than life character, like a transgender anarchist, a mafia mom, a religious assassin. I really want to give everyone shout outs on this Twitch channel because they're great, but also time constraints. Okay, with consistent chemistry, you can focus on the session rather than putting out your interpersonal fires. I have also lost my... Yep, here we are. Occasionally, it's desired, like Tony and Steve's clashing egos and ideals. The key is to know what you're dealing with. Know your chemistry. Now, point 3, there's no defined ending yet. For you theatre kids, this is a gimme. It's basically yes and in medias res. Wouldn't be a queer talk without invoking Taika Waititi, blessed be his name. And this is basically what happened with Thor Ragnarok and later Love and Thunder. Yes, Thor is a powerful god with a protected complex that tends to thump his way through his problems, and is a bisexual disaster trying to make sense of a world of cardboard. Applying it to a wider plot, yes, Odin's Tesseract is a powerful relic, and it happens to house an Infinity Stone. Or, yes, Vision is permadead, and Wanda is not coping with his death at all. The ending is not set in stone. As long as there's wiggle room, there's a place to go. So, in the vampire campaign, this would be, yes, there is an indigenous represented sect called the First Nations Board of Kindred, and they sponsor particular leaders. Yes, this terrible thing did happen, and these conspiracy groups exist because of that thing. Yes, this professional wrestler Baron with hot pink tassels on his chaps hires out his security. And they're all vampire war veterans from every major conflict of the last 300 years. Yes, this bartender has seen a lot of things, and he became a mage because of it. Every single one of those yes ands is a recorded vignette on this channel, whether on YouTube or Twitch. This is all in a big document of shot points where the storytellers can get the canon straight. The First Nations Board of Kindred is established at a certain point, it's solidified. Basically, whether you're additive or destructive, you move forward. Don't try to go backwards with it, go forward. One character, a flesh sculpting gender therapist, has years of when her patients transitioned. Yes, and can open a variety of doors. And I promise you, whatever you don't see as a good direction, a sleep-deprived subway worker will think it is an absolute banger and run with it. And finally, Point 4, tiny lives in epic histories. If you're running a bigger IP like D&D or Pathfinder, this is kind of a given. Duskfall is a bit more self-contained, but it has enough space to run concurrent games. Even 10 Candles can have that continuity with each session describing a new aspect of the end. In the MCU, Peter Parker's misadventures in Homecoming have little to no bearing on Asgard or Wakanda. It is, however, contingent on the first Avengers ensemble. Vulture is only a villain in that movie because of those events. Tony Stark sacked him from his superhero cleanup business. The screenwriting team has chops in Bones, Cop Car, and Freaks and Geeks, so police procedurals, thriller, and teen drama. Yes, sanding their way after Avengers and Civil War. Applying it to a garden variety tabletop setting, even Strahd is a tiny blip on an otherwise giant radar. The corporations in Shadowrun are all things we can see in our lifetimes. Even Goblinization is a few years late, but it's not going to stop me from hoping. Taken at scale, the Horus Heresy is another localized event compared to everything else. The Imperium, however, is just too self-centered to think outside of its own borders. In the context of the example campaign, the 2010-2011 Brisbane floods, Princess Diana's car crash, and the government backdoors into cybersecurity all inform plot points. Regardless of how powerful Cain and the Antediluvians are, most vampires are small fish in a very big pond. Real life informs the struggles of the kindred, even in the metaplot. This is why the Second Inquisition is a thing. What matters is the precedents they set and the relevant context. Y comes after K, both share the alphabet with A, and they come together to form Yak. Change A to 2, and you've got a digital apocalypse. Even history isn't immune to this. Thanks to the Second World War, we went from biplanes and Bakelite to plastics and ramjet engines. At scale, if not for the berserker of Stamford Bridge, Harold Godwinson might have won Hastings. We might have seen a totally different world if so. That said, the berserker didn't affect anything at Sekigahara or the Fatimid Caliphate. Precedence and context. Now, these are your 4 examples. It's up to you to figure out how to execute this best. The big DM notes works for the example campaign. It might not work for your GURPS setting. It might be paramount to your thirsty sword lesbians cosmology. You'll figure that out based on the questions you need to ask. Is it nonlinear? Are there defined things that must happen? Is causality so wobbly one knock could change everything, or is it resilient enough that it will course correct? If you take nothing else away from this talk, just take away good communication. That's it. That's the tweet. This kind of undertaking is critical for your actual play or your beer and chips game at home. It's contingent on it. Do it right, and you'll find your campaigns telling stories beyond your own limits. Thank you.
Yeah, like round of applause gift. Seriously, Jay. Thanks for bringing that in. No, look, like absolutely dug that. A lot of information there. So look, like I may need to pick back over this just to like sort of really sink my teeth into that. But that was yeah. Thanks for coming out with that. I think. Sorry, what was that?
Just thank you.
No, look, yeah, yeah, like really, and you really enjoyed the sort of layer and the multimedia there. But look, I'm gonna give everyone a bit of a chance to sort of roll in with their questions there. And look, we got good solid clapping in the chat already. So I'll just deliver that onwards.
Thank you.
Yeah, some things I was sort of like thinking about while you were talking there. And look, um this is something that I do sort of keep coming back to because sort of touching on, like making sort of like tiny lives and in such a sort of protagonism focused field that we have, I guess. How do you like what's your way, I suppose, of like making the epic personal? Like do you have a particular like approach to that or?
So that's the thing. It's like I find like a lot of world events are typically not personal to the individual in real life. Um, like I if you look at a lot of the recent issues around the world, there's actually a computer virus that got loose in I think it was a Saudi bank, and it
Mm,
could have crippled the world economy worse than we have seen now, but no one knew about it. However, you see all this factioning going on with not just the ongoing trans debate, indigenous matters, even the war in Ukraine. It's those tend to become personal at a big level, though they're symptomatic of a wider problem, like like a lot of the world's oligarchies. So, uh, but it's easier to get wrapped up in that because it's a personal matter. So for myself, quite a number of my friends, it's like our lives are quite literally on the line with regards to gender and sexuality. With the like, especially in First Nations Australia, like we're an actively genocided demographic, so that's very
mm,
easy to get personal over. Whereas like a lot of milk and toast white breads I talk to, they don't really seem to understand or really appreciate the genocide that's going on. They think that, oh well, my life is the baseline. Everyone kind of has this life, and then if you're making a earnest attempt to educate, then no, that's when it starts becoming a bit more personal. Capitalism, in I'm kind of preaching to the choir with this one. People who have worked it out, capitalism becomes a bit of a personal grudge match when they've had those 3 bad weeks in a row and they've gone tumbling down the ladder, or or they're aware that they've come up from nothing and they're going to need to fight to the death to keep it. But the higher up the ladder you go, the more apathetic people are because it's just not personal. It's a bit of a
mm.
long-winded way to explain how to make the epic seem, how to make the epic a part of it, someone's tiny eye blink of a life. But if there's no emotionality behind it, if there's no real reason to be invested, then what's the point? You kind of you might like you're basically being a rebel without a cause at that point.
Mm. I think yeah, you hit a really interesting point with the investment there, is that it does
Mm.
have to be a personal investment at the end of the day. And I just realized I've been nodding thoughtfully along as this has gone, and I don't have a camera on, so that's I'm just wearing my neck out. But we do have another question in the chat here, and it's sort of related to the previous. Yeah, can you dig a little deeper into top soundbite tips for changing scope but keeping a world feeling consistent? So
um, how do you mean by that?
look, I just read it off the line here. So look, in this case, I think what we're getting at is sort of when you got that sort of zoom in, zoom out. I suppose a big world and that personal level as well. Like how do we get the whole picture? I think is what we're trying to get at. But
Okay.
mm,
So soundbite tips for okay. So for zoom in,
mm,
zoom out. Basically,
okay,
scale
sorry,
of
day in the
consequence.
life, breaking a big plot. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. So it's basically
Mhm.
zoom in, zoom out.
Mm,
I'm actually gonna renege some of my points about G Dubs because Caiaphas Kane actually does have a very good example.
mhm.
It's between Kane and Jurgen. A day in Kane's life is like, oh no, like I'm just trying to live my life. I'm trying to get behind the lines. I'm just trying to enjoy this lavish hotel at the Imperium's expense. And Jurgen, what is it? I think the short story from his perspective is a fresh mug of recaf. It's just like it basically reads like I got up, I dealt with I dealt with all this paperwork. I got the commissar a fresh mug of tea. Everyone seemed to be upset about something, but I couldn't tell what the fuss was. I walked in and a witch was screaming. I don't know why. Everything seemed to be okay. Walk out, lather, rinse, repeat. Whereas uh, Kane reads it in such a way where it's like, the world, like, this planet is literally on the cusp of exterminatus, and then Jurgen's just like, huh? So that kind of emotionality. Another, like, a bit more of a concrete example is if you're having like world-shattering consequences. Compare and contrast Spider-Man to Captain America: Winter Soldier. So Winter Soldier is Hydra infiltrating Shield. They take control of the brand spanking new helicarriers, and at the climax, those helicarriers are destroyed. Shield is disbanded. Then there's basically a shadow war going on after that. Spider-Man: Homecoming is a lot more local. Everything is contained within Brooklyn. It focuses on a teen drama. And Peter's just really focused on trying to be a superhero while also getting the girl at the end, but the girl's dad happens to be the guy that's trying to kill him. So it's kind of that adjustment of scale. It all takes place in MCU, but precedence and conflict there are two different scales. The precedence and the context is like, okay, well, fascist infiltration of a world government, they're trying to take over, destroy these super weapons, versus my crush's dad is trying to kill me. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm pretty sure it doesn't affect anyone else, but I'll give it a red hot go anyway. That sort of scale.
No, yeah, I think that's it. Like, I think those are all really rock solid examples of, of making stories personal. And it has always been one of my favorite sort of tensions in my own mind when I when I start referring to the greater Warhammer 40,000 universe. Like, no, we've got some really personal stories in here, and it's like, oh, yeah, I like. It's always a pleasant surprise when they do crop up. So, yeah, I think. That seems to be. There we go. So yeah, look, one sort of last thing to take us out, I guess. When you were talking before about the importance of communication, and and sort of like the chemistry within these sorts of creative enterprises, and like these sort of creative activities. And what's like, do you have a go-to for like gauging chemistry in a scenario? Like, do you sort of curate, or like, do you have a particular approach for that, or?
Like, I think one of the best heuristics you've got for that would be, it's like, be aware of your nerd fallacies. Not all your friends are going to get along doing the same thing. Like, you need to think about, like, okay, do I know this? Do I know for a fact that this player thinks this way? Do I know for a fact that this player enjoys this content? So going back to the list down here, like, one of the best ways I've noticed, well, one of the best ways is, like, I've used, is that the best thing you can do is basically just like throw them into a bit of an into an improv situation and see what they do. So for who's on screen, like, there's me down there, in the bottom left. It's like, I'm a doer. Like, give me something to do and I'll do it. But that also means, like, I tend not to think things through. Pidge on the side, very quiet, but also very deliberate. So if she does anything, then it's like there's usually a good reason for doing it. The one that's laughing, that's doing the manic laugh on the middle right hand side, that's Inez. She's very, very good at reading a situation and milking it for drama. So within that three, she and I riff off each other really, really well. In this campaign, our characters actually like had a thing for each other. Um, where I riff off with Pidge is that okay, I'll often find myself going to Pidge to basically if I want to think things through or if I needed to hold something very important. Um, in terms of GMing, Pidge I find is very malleable, so I could stick her in anywhere and it works. Um, the storyteller Nick, they're very also very adaptable, but I find that they tend to take the initiative and they like try to think about their drama. So uh, really, the best thing you can do is like just send some test balloons, role play a session 0 just to see if everything's working. Smoke test a lot. Make sure you gauge it and just try to gauge it correctly. Like if people are reacting off of each other, that's good. The worst thing you can get is just 5 static entities because
Mm,
they'll just go yes and this, yes and this, rather than like display that emotionality between each other.
mm, mm.
I hope that makes sense.
No, I think that's a really great way to be thinking about it. And
Mm.
yeah, look, that's no, they like really
I suppose a
actionable
pith-
stuff. Yeah.
I suppose a pithy phrase there would be like chemistry reacts.
Mm,
Like that. Well, that's the thing of like chemistry. You want it to react, and
mm.
you want it to react in specific ways. So, like, a good example of using actual chemistry is like, okay, well, say you want I don't know. You want to weld something, but you don't have a welder. That's fine. If you have some copper rust, some oxide, and a bit of fuel, then it's okay. You can what is it? Make copper thermite and weld the railroad tracks that way. Do you want like to capture some specific hydrogen gas? Well, okay, drop some magnesium in hydrochloric acid, get the gas, right? It's the same thing with your players and your GM slash storyteller at large. You want reactions. You don't want 5 independent actions. You want everybody to bounce off of each other.
And I think yeah, taking the metaphor a little as well, you want it to like have a bit of its own fuel, I suppose. You don't want it to be something that has to be coaxed along the whole way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. No, look, massive thanks again for that, Jade. I think like you've given us some like really actionable stuff, and look, I think the other theme of just like ram raiding Empire for its useful tools is a very good way to be approaching things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
So
it's
look,
like
yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like yes, Disney is evil, but like as Baron Harkonnen says, when is a gift not a gift? Just yeah, like if they're going to give us a gift, it's like okay, well we're just going to snatch these tools, repurpose them for our use.
Mm.
Right.
And look, if that's what takes us out, I think that's a great that's a great place to be landing it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right. So yeah, like, do you have any sort of sort of pluggables or links that we can send the people home with? Or I mean, I
Yes,
can
I
see it. I
will.
can see it in the video, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll type like so down at the bottom right hand of the slide. Excuse me, the bottom right hand of the slide. That's my username. You can basically, if you see a Jaded Cynic spelt that way, I guarantee you that's me. Um, the special thanks. This is everyone's usernames. Nick Topher. That's where you'll find Nick's what is it, journalism, indigenous advocacy. Lightfoot Rogue is the name of the channel. Uh, the other usernames, that's what they are on various platforms. It's like at Al, ask me for a complete list. I will hunt down every single username. I just can't stick them here because I ran out of space.
That's
And
danger.
I'll plug specific links in the Twitch chat once I've closed up here.
Excellent. Yeah, we can arrange a full bibliography in the show notes as necessary too. So look, massive props again. Thanks for that, Jade. Amazing
Thank you for having me.
presentation. So, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.